In a world where dreams meet reality, there exists a place where your business can flourish. That place is Shopify. Imagine having the power to craft your online store with tools that make it as easy as a gentle breeze. Whether you're an artisan of handmade wonders, a creator of digital treasures, or a curator of the latest trends, Shopify stands by your side. With its customizable templates, seamless integrations, and support that's always there, your dream store is just a heartbeat away. Join millions of visionaries around the globe and let Shopify guide you on your journey. Visit roguemedianetwork.com/Shopify. That's roguemedianetwork.com/SHOPIFY. And embark on your free trial. Shopify, where your commerce dreams come to life.
Hi.
Hello.
And welcome to BooBaes.
That's right. We're your hosts. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Joshua.
And today we're here to talk to you about one of my personal favorites.
The Queen of the Damned.
Queen of the Damned. Yes.
You've seen this movie before.
Yes. I remember when I got this movie on DVD.
Ooh,
for a Christmas present. I got it for a Christmas present. Or maybe it was No, it must have been for Christmas the following year because it came out February of 2002, right?
I think so, yeah.
And
for one?
Yeah,
was it one? Two, yeah.
February. Yeah. So I wouldn't have gotten it for Christmas that year. I got it for Christmas in December. Or it was my birthday, which is in January. So one of those times. But I still remember like it was yesterday that there was two gifts that I remember from my childhood that were like life-changing for me. This was one of them. And then when I received Fall Out Boys from Under the Cork Tree on CD.
Yeah.
Very
I remember life-altering.
Yes, that album like changed my life, and this movie changed my life too. I loved it. It's such a good movie.
It's very campy.
It is. There was a lot of things that I was like, this didn't age well, but I don't care. I love it still.
No, it was still cute. Like, it's a good movie. I honestly thought I had seen it, but I didn't remember most of this like at all. I didn't remember or realize like that Aaliyah is basically only like the last 30 minutes of it. And that most of it is like about Lestat. Also, didn't remember that it focused on Lestat. I just thought it was some random hot vampire. I didn't realize that it was Lestat from the Interview with the Vampire and all the books stuff. Yeah.
Anne Rice. I've read quite a few of these books. I was a really big fan of Anne Rice growing up. And so I read Interview with the Vampire. I've read this book. My favorite one was one called Memnoch the Devil.
Okay.
And that one had Lestat in it as well. Very well, now it's been so long since I've read it. That was in, I think, high school when I went through my big Anne Rice phase. But yeah, I really, really enjoy any of Anne Rice's stories. And yes, Lestat as well.
Shout out. But yeah,
I wanted to show you real fast. I know that we're on a time crunch because my battery is dying, but I wanted to show you your present.
Already?
Yeah, I wanted to show it to you on here because it's horror related.
Okay.
Okay, look, it's a little cup, but look at they look like the Precious Moment characters.
They're so cute.
Which way am I going?
Yeah, S. Michael, Ghostface, Jason. That's
and then it
cute.
says,
what does it say?
Horror movie and chill.
That's cute. Is it a little like coffee cup or a candle?
Yeah, it's a little coffee cup and it has a straw with it. It's hand wash only, but it says be creepy with me. I was going to get us both one, but they only had one. So I got it for you instead.
That's really cute. But I love it.
I thought it would be cute if we had matching cups. So maybe if I ever come across this company again.
It's like where? In person or like, I forget.
It was a little
somewhere.
It was a little market
Mhm.
that was at Four Corners Brewery here in Dallas.
Shout out to Four Corners. Sponsor
Yeah,
us.
love
Yes.
them. Right now I'm drinking Manhattan Project's Hazy IPA, which is another Dallas brewery. But yeah, I saw it and I was like, I have to get this for Josh. It's so cute.
Yeah,
I know that you probably have too many cups, but you can never have too many cups.
Never enough cups, especially spooky themed cups.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if I sound a bit weird, it's because I had wisdom teeth pulled a week ago. So
oh right, yeah, we're back, guys. This has been quite a hiatus because I was opening a store called Love Lady. So if you're interested in following that, it's called Shop Love Lady on Instagram. But that's what took me away. And then, yeah, right after that, Josh had to have emergency wisdom teeth outage.
So I was going to die from a blood infection and tooth abscess. It's disgusting. I know. TMI.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's why they were hurting so bad.
Yeah.
Well, you don't look swollen.
No, thankfully everything's kind of been healing. What I think is fine. This one hurts a lot more than this side, but I'm only taking amoxicillin now. I stopped taking the codeine like 2 days ago because it's making me too nauseous, and I'm only have like amoxicillin and ibuprofen right now, so it's just kind of hurting.
Yeah, the codeine. I know I told you, but when I got my wisdom teeth out, I can't take any pain meds or I'll just literally vomit. Yeah. And so I've had to take like, what's that main one called?
I have no idea.
I don't know. There's hydrocodone and then there's something else, but I had to take them before for multiple things. And then every time I would just throw up. And then when I got my wisdom teeth, they're like, honey, you're going to want these. And I was like, I don't know. They always make me throw up. And they were like, well, it'd be really bad if you threw up. And I was like, okay, well then maybe I shouldn't take them. They're like, no, you're going to want them. And so then I took them and then I threw up and ripped all my stitches out.
Yeah.
And then had impacted or whatever it's called. I had to go back and get them like fixed a little bit.
Ouch. Yeah.
Because I fucked it all up. I did not my healing process was not good when my wisdom teeth got out.
Yeah. So we're trying to stay opposite of that. But let's go ahead and get into it because this movie is so good. I just want to talk about it.
Yes, directed by Michael Reimer. I'm assuming is how you say his name.
I saw his other credits too. I don't think I've seen any other of his movies, TBH, but
I didn't look at them, so I'm not certain that I have either. But we're starring Stuart Townsend, Aaliyah, obviously. Aaliyah and I have the same birthday, so that's pretty cool. Well, had the same birthday. R.I.P. Yeah, I love that at the end of this movie they credit her because she died right before
the release.
Yeah. Just she died in 2001, so I think they had filmed everything, and maybe that's why she has so little of a role.
That might be why too. Honestly, that makes sense.
They like filmed some of the major scenes. I don't know. We'll have to find out maybe in the fun facts.
Well, I don't know. Too. You read the book. Is it like pretty spot on or do you remember if it's like pretty accurate?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
Nowadays, I would be interested. I always say this, but I'd be interested in rereading it.
When do you have the time, Caitlin?
I don't, but I would like to think that I had the time. Maybe I can find it on like Audible or something and listen to it. Yeah. Because listening, like while I'm driving and stuff, now I have a 40-minute commute to work. So driving, I can listen to things a lot.
Knock out a good chunk
maybe
of it.
I could do that. Yeah. But we're also starring Vincent Perez, Margaret Moreau, Jonathan Davis of Korn his voice is used for all of Lestat's singing vocals. That's Jonathan Davis of Korn. Korn was one of my favorite bands growing up. I was like balls to the wall, hardcore in love with them. Not like in love with how they looked, but I just loved their music.
Scared me.
That's fair. My uncle really loved Korn, and I really looked up to my uncle. And so I think that's why I like really loved Korn. Like my uncle has a Korn tattoo. And so I really loved Korn, and hence why I also really loved this movie. Jonathan Davis also has a cameo later in the movie, the one who's trying to sell her tickets whenever she lands in LA, and he's like, "You want tickets? $200 a pop." That's him.
Yeah. And she's like,
so
no.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so Korn did most of the music, but we also have some Disturbed. And I wrote down all the bands that I knew of as they came up. So I'll just mention them whenever they come up. But yeah, there's this music. This had one of the best soundtracks, in my opinion, of any film in like history.
It's very so good. It's very like that 90s rock vibe. Like all the bands. Yeah, all the bands.
Really good.
And yeah, and we have Lestat opening up with, after we get some credits and stuff, and we get the Queen of the Damned over the title. Lestat opens up with the narrating and basically giving us an introduction to what it's like to be a vampire who lives forever and ever.
Yep. And he's just basically he's went into a slumber after what we can assume was like the interview with the vampire time. And he's woken from his slumber now because he hears a new life, like basically new stuff that makes him want to come forth and be a part of this world again. Because he said he was so bored, and that the idea of mortality, like immortality and just being alone forever, really like didn't suit him. And so he was like, I'm going to go to sleep for 100 years. And then he wakes up and we have an immediate death scene.
Yeah, he's basically just sucking off some dude.
Yep, sucks him right off. Feeds on him for the first time in 100 years.
Gives him his vitality back. And he ends up
the most alive I've felt, or something like that.
And he's drawn to the sound of like this rock music that's being played, and he ends up finding the band that it's coming from, and like just pops up in Lestat fashion, kind of like Batman. He's so quiet, and then they're like, and then they're like, what do you want? And he's like, I want to be a part of the band. And then they're like, no, you can't. You're a loser. And then he's like, shows his fangs, and he's like, I'll kill you if you don't let me be in the band, basically.
That's exactly how it goes. But he basically betrays vampires everywhere in that instance, also immediately disclosing his identity. And so that's kind of like the whole premise of this film. Is that Lestat doesn't want to be in the dark anymore. He wants to live in the light, and he wants to be known and worshipped and stuff. And so he tells the band that he's a vampire, and at first they're like, vampire, but then he pulls his magic tricks, and they're like, oh shit, this dude's legit.
And they, what do you know, let him in the band, because what else would you do if you have a vampire that's promising you the world and telling you he can get you all the fame and fortune and he's going to make your dreams come true,
and has a voice like that?
Yeah, for sure. And he looks great. He's very beautiful.
Yes, he is.
And then we end up then going to
all the people in this movie are very beautiful. Like even the band, whenever he meets them, he's like, you all are so beautiful. And I was like, they are all pretty attractive looking people. I mean, maybe some of them could use some makeovers, but like the girl, the keyboardist, she was really pretty. I was like, damn.
And then we cut to an interview, right? We're getting interviewed in London.
Yes, and he we also got one of the best soundtrack songs ever in that moment. We are introduced to one of their first songs, and that was one of my favorites. I'm gonna like listen to the soundtrack on repeat after this.
The next 3 days,
yeah. But yes, they're being interviewed in London, and for some reason, while he was on this screen, he really, really looked like Keira Knightley to me.
It's the bone structure, but I can see what you mean.
And like his mouth. It was something about his mouth and the way that he smiled that I was like, there's Keira Knightley in this.
That was her. She was a fill-in for that day.
She just, yeah, they were like, we can't get, what was his name? Stuart Townsend.
They were filming Pride and Prejudice next door on Lot C, and they were like, hey, can you come over here?
Hop on over.
Shots. And they're interviewing him. All the human people are like, oh my God, you're a vampire. Like, what are other vampires going to think about this? And he's like, I don't know. Fuck them. Everybody, like, come out wherever you are. He basically wants all the vampires to, you know, be free and be in the light and be seen. But basically, all the vampires, as we find out, are kind of like, what are you doing, dude? We're going to kill you because you're breaking vampire law ethics.
Vampire code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's calling them all out to specifically go to his concert in Death Valley, where the band is going to be playing. Really
their one singular show that they're going to be doing. So people are going to travel from all over. But they're doing like press tours in London and stuff, which is so bizarre to me. I mean, I guess they're just really that big. But
it's the vampire powers, no?
Yeah, I'd say so. He's I mean, basically he is a god at this point.
And he's getting groupies brought to him.
Yes, we're in his house now, and there's 2 girls who have been brought to him. And this is a very awkward scene because they're both just like wiggling around and giggling and stuff, and very like innocent, but also not innocent at the same time. And so it was just very like, it was like, okay, just do something already or something like that. I was kind of like, whoa, what is going on? But they start kind of joking around and they're like, are you hungry? Are you hungry for something else? And he's like, bitch, I might be. So then they start crawling around on the floor, and then he's like, look at this. And he doesn't say that, but he just like starts climbing up the wall and onto the ceiling. And then he is up there, and then the girls are kind of like, ha 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 ha.
At this point, I guess they think they're going to have fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have sex, I guess.
Yeah, but then I guess he gets off in another way, and he drops down onto them and attacks them. And this is where we get to see the first little bit of that like faded kind of how would you call it, motion that the vampires make.
Like they're like I don't know what to call it, but whenever they're,
it's almost like it's like frame by frame,
like a blur.
Yeah, blurred out little like separated frame by frame little motion, the way that they move
stop
in this
motion
film.
Almost.
It's really cool. I know that this probably didn't age well, but in my opinion, I still think it's a really neat way to showcase that these vampires are moving faster than like the speed of us. Normal speed.
I was leaning more towards the like it didn't age as well, but it is, I can see what you mean. Like it shows like it definitely gets the message across. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it didn't, like,
right.
I understand that it didn't necessarily age well, but to me,
it's also 2001.
2001, 2002.
We also watched Blade, or I watched Blade, and like the graphics on that is just like it's laughable. It's like video game.
Yeah.
From
what I remember of Blade, because Blade was another one of my favorites growing up. And so I'm super excited to watch that as well. But yes, I personally think it's still cool the way that they did it.
Caitlin, we already know you're going to give this movie a 5. It's okay.
I know. Yeah, I did. I wanted to almost start and be like, look, guys,
just leave all your biases in. It's okay.
I love it. This movie could like literally have shit on me, and I would have been like 5.
5 all the way. No, like I'm not saying it's horrible, but it did. I get what you mean though, and then we can say like it doesn't look
it's nostalgic,
but it's obviously like you can't shit on it because it's obvious. It's literally from like what 20 years ago.
Yeah. more than that now.
Yeah. So
Slightly.
it is, it's the best that they could do. You know what I mean? And it looks good. It doesn't look like horrible.
I remember I wrote
cringe.
somewhere in my notes that I was like, I remember this being like top of the line whenever it came out. I remember being like, whoa, that is so cool. And it's not so cool anymore, but I remember it being awesome. And so to me, like seeing it called it back to me, and I was like flooded with those same emotions. And I was like, this is so cool.
But the movie, honestly, it fits in line with the rest of the movie too. It's not like because the movie isn't even necessarily like it's not like an action vampire movie. It's like not like it's not like it has all these special effects. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's So it's not like their movie hinges on it to look absolutely like. But anyways, we've spent like literally 5 minutes talking about a transition.
Yeah, sorry.
So Jesse is now we get to meet Jesse, our other, I guess, main character, who is in bed hearing her name, like being called out essentially, and it's
ghostly whispers.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And
that's what my closed captioning said.
We get to see her also having like these flashbacks or dreams, essentially more flashbacks, I would say, to her at the age of 6. And when she was with her aunt, it's not Margaret, but it sounds like Margaret. It's Maharet or something like that.
Maharet.
Yeah, I think. I'm just call her Margaret. But yeah, and
Jesse's real name is Margaret.
Oh, yeah, the actress. Yeah.
Her actress's name is Margaret. Yeah.
That's confusing.
It was confusing.
And then, she's having these, flashbacks, and like the Maharit lady's like telling her, like, you can't be with us. You have to be with your own kind. And then it kind of just like fizzles out. And then we have, is it someone's listening to the band and reading and having coffee?
Yeah, Jesse's reading, right? Having coffee or tea or something hot, and she's got the TV playing on in the background, and it's one of those little tiny silver box TVs that I'm like, I had one of those. But it was playing the music video, and she was reading, but then stops whenever she hears something in the music video, gets intrigued, turns it up, and then we kind of flash to the Talamasca Center for Paranormal Studies in London. And now she's presenting a little PowerPoint over Lestat and saying that his lyrics lead to a vampire coven, and that the lyrics led to something called, what was it called again?
I didn't write it down, but it
something
was like
arms.
Oh, the Amistad. Oh, I did write it down somewhere. Hold up. I'll get it. Hold up. But keep going. Yes.
But and then basically she went and she was like, it's in this warehouse district.
Admiral's Arms.
The Admiral's Arms,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's in this warehouse district, and it is basically the only private club that's there, and it's in the exact same location that it was in the like 17th century, basically. And she's saying that this is like a club for vampires, basically, and that he's led us to a vampire coven right under our noses. And she has a photo of it in there, and everyone in the room is like, what? Where'd you get that photo?
Fuck?
Yeah, they're all freaking out. And then they're like, we observe the dark realm, but do not be of it, kind of thing.
Yeah. And basically they have a Talamascan code.
Yeah, exactly. That is not, you're not supposed to dabble in there and actually like become a part of it. Even though I would argue that David like also is hardcore a part of it with his obsession with Marius.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but because then they're all like, well, does David know about this? And then all of a sudden cue David and he's like, just come to my office.
me.
Yeah.
And then how she's like, well, I wanted to make sure that it was real, or this was a really serious thing, and he's like, well, even more so, like, why you should have came to me. So
Yeah.
so they're kind of like almost like bookkeepers, essentially record keepers. They just kind of keep an eye on things. They don't necessarily interfere. And David ends up showing Jesse these paintings of Marius because she's talking about Lestat, and he's like, basically, like, I have bigger fish to fry. Like, I'm actually looking for the man who created Lestat.
Yeah, he dates back to 400 BC. Then he's the closest that we can come to the original vampire. So Homeboy doesn't even know about Akasha.
Yeah.
He just is focused on Marius and is like, we got to find him. And he's obsessed with him, basically.
Yeah. And he's reading the journal entry in Lestat's journal about how Lestat got turned by Marius into a vampire. And we go into a little flashback.
She was like, how do you know that he made Lestat? And he's like, well, I've got Lestat's journal. And this journal, yeah, I know, right? Just very convenient. And it's just super also convenient that the journal happens to explain his origin story, like point by point. But it gives us a nice...
It's like a memoir at that point. It's not even a journal. Yeah. It's like a memoir.
He's just, it's his diary. Because
that's how what we all do. We just write about our origin stories in our diaries.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you just write about what happened to you every day, he just happened to write it in a very concise and very biography style way.
And this is whenever we cut to him. He's Lestat Delacourt. I forget his name, Lion Delacourt or something like that. And he was taken by Marius, and he ends up turning him into a vampire and showing him the ways of vampirism.
He tells him to drink and live, to drink and learn. And his wounds are basically healing immediately. So we're seeing that he's got like Marius's wounds are healing immediately. And so we can see that, like, these vampires have kind of this superhuman power of being able to heal quickly. And so that's just another one of the things that they can do. And while he's sitting there basically dying, Marius is like, don't be afraid, it's only your body that dies. And it's like, damn.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, thanks for the comfort. And then fucking Lestat is such a brat. Yeah. When he's just like, more.
Yeah.
I was like, you brat.
Well, it's very much his personality, right? And the vampirism just kind of, makes his personality times 10. He's very indulgent. And
he only wants more and more and more from life.
Yeah.
And that's his downfall. Well, somewhat.
And so at this point, we know that, like, they're out on the beach and stuff. They're trying to, like, live their lives. And Marius is just basically like, you can't know people. Like, you have to live in the shadows and be discreet because we are vampires now. And that's just what we do, so that way we can exist. And he's like, what? Like, I don't want to do that. That's lame. And so he ends up, like, meeting this lady on the beach that he's playing violin with. And there's also another dude there. And he gets into the bag and starts playing the violin so good that his, like, vampire eyes start glowing. And so they notice and they try to take off running. And then Marius is like, we got to kill them. So they end up having to kill them. And Lestat has to learn very quickly that there are consequences. And that he has to basically be alone for the rest of his life, essentially.
Yeah. And we also learn in this moment that whenever you feed, you must not take the last drop, or it will draw you in and you'll die. Yeah. So that comes back into play at the end with Akasha. And but yeah, you can never, like, fully drain the human or you'll die as well.
That's an odd rule.
It is. You think that you'd want to, like, fully kill them.
Drain them, yeah. And so then we end up, after he kills the girl and Marius kills the dude, they have to burn their bodies. And then we end up meeting back with Lestat. and they're in the Marius's house, and he ends up finding and discovering a secret kind of hidden chamber.
Yes, he's playing his violin and his bow gets drawn out of his hand behind a dresser. And on the floor, whenever he moves the dresser, there's this like little key basically on the floor that whenever he runs his finger across it, it pops up and he's able to turn this key, which opens a secret door. It was pretty cool. I was like, damn, this is like all I wish to have in a house. I want secret chambers galore. Yes. Right on the beach too, just hearing all those waves all the time. I was like, oh, how nice that must be. Yeah. But he opens the secret door.
Is painting out on the beach, so he doesn't know what's happening.
That's right. Yeah, Marius is not in the house. But Lestat's confused and he's led down into a tunnel and flames start lighting the way. And all the while he's calling for Marius, being like, Marius, what in the world is going on here? Like, did you just open this door for me? What's happening? I don't know. And then all of a sudden he's in front of this big wooden door and it shatters and he's in a throne room. And there's two individuals sitting on the throne, a king and a queen. And she's calling to him basically. And he's like, would you like me to play for you? And so he plays.
And then plays the statue so well. She's calling out for him more. And since he's playing the statue for him, it ends up like she raises her stone hand and like flips it over. And that's his cue. And he goes in because he starts to see like these veins underneath like the color of the statue and hears her pulse and then goes in for a bite.
Yep. And this was another point where I wrote down the music in this film is so good. Just like the background music, even like the orchestral stuff was so well timed that I thought it was just really good and it only added to the film. But once he bites into her wrist, we get flashes of bloodlust and murder and just a bunch of red. Like we see Akasha laughing and just basically a bunch of blood. And then he passes out on the floor and Marius, like as soon as he takes a bite of Akasha's arm or wrist, Marius is like hit with something. And he's like, oh shit. She's awake. And he rushes in and then he's like, what have you done, Lestat?
Yeah. And that's when he gets to, that's whenever he does wake up. And then Lestat, Marius, I keep on calling him Maurice. Marius is telling, Lestat of like how Akasha is the queen of the damned, of all damned. And she and Enkel used to rule the world. But at one point he drank so much that he lost his thirst, and then she lost her will for life. And so I guess they ended up becoming statues.
Living statues, yeah.
Yeah.
And they ruled over Egypt back in the day. And I loved how he was like, she's your mother. She's my mother. And I was like, she is mother.
She's mother. She is the mommy. And Lestat now has her blood. So he is stronger and like, I guess got like a supercharged dose of what being a vampire is.
Yeah. And it kind of like gave him more extra powers.
Yeah. And then he ends up getting left by Marius because Marius leaves him and takes the tomb, like the statues out from the tomb of Enkel and Akasha. And he never hears from Marius again. And that's like what we have until like we do end up meeting him and he becomes a rock star and stuff.
Yes. And at this point in his journal that he says, my teacher left me to my darkest lesson, that in the end we are alone. And now I wrote down Admiral's arm too.
Yeah, because Jesse is going there.
Yeah, Jesse goes back, and I was like, girl, you got too much pink in your cheeks. You stand out. She looks like fresh blood. Like
and she smells like it. Meat sack. And so she ends up going, because she's got some big balls, to a vampire club and ends up sneaking in behind these other vamps that go in. And she's in there. She notices that some vampire ladies are. Is it vampire ladies? Was it ladies? Yeah, it was a lady, right? She was sucking the blood off some dude, and then looks at her, and then she's like spooked, so she goes to the bar, and then the people at the bar are like, "Oh, you don't look like you've been here much because you don't have where are your holes?" She's like, "You haven't seen the rest of my body," and then
that one girl's like, "Is that an invitation?"
Yeah, and she ends up getting so like they're coming on to her, and she's like, "You know what? I belong to Marius, so you better, stop it, or he's gonna like deal with you. You'll have to answer to him." And
and they're like, "We've never heard of him," and she's like, "Well, of course not. He's an ancient." Yeah. And they're like, "Okay."
Flies. And so then she ends up leaving, but they chase after her, and they almost have their way with her as they surround her. But then Lestat shows up to save her.
Yep, he shows up right in the nick of time. And I will say the one girl going cracked me up here. I was like, that part, no.
She was doing her best.
She was.
The movie is camp. And so Lestat ends up having a conversation with her, and he's like, "Oh, you're a Talamascan. Like, your kind bore me. Like, I don't even want to, drink your blood." And he's like, "How do you know about Marius?" And she's like, "Because I've read your journal." Well, she doesn't necessarily say that, but she says things that he's like, "Oh, okay, so you've read my journal." And he's like, "I knew I left that somewhere." And then that's because
she brings up, she's like, "Your song Redeemer is about the girl with the violin." And he's like, that catches his attention. And he's like, okay. And then he's like, "For what do I yearn?" And she says, she answers, to be known, to walk among the living, kind of thing. And he was like, "That makes you a very clever librarian. Talamascan. I knew I left that journal somewhere." And she says she knows something that's not all in his journal. And she's like, "You still have the violin, don't you? After all, it's only human." And this kind of ticks him off. And so he charges her, but just flies over her. Yeah, just to like spook her a bit. And then so she runs home. But then we go home and we see that he does still, in fact, have that violin. And he's like, "Clever librarian."
Yeah. And then we cut to Jessie going to LA because she is going to go to the show to go try and get, well, even before then, she's going to try to go and see Lestat. And because she wants to return the journal, but it's more than that. But at this point,
she wants his dick.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, she's like entranced with, the essence.
Everything she's fallen hard for that juju.
And so Marius then shows up to Lestat again after all this time because he's seeing, what Lestat has done, and Lestat is stirring up, the vampire world. Lestat ends up showing Marius like just how life is for him now, and how much Marius has missed being asleep, and basically calling Marius like an old timer, like he needs to get with the times.
Calls out the fact that he's still dressed in red velvet and stuff. And he's like, "How did you get through the 50s in red velvet?" And that's when he's like, "I was asleep." And he was like,
Yeah, and he's telling him, and Marius is really here because he's letting him know that Akasha has awakened because of the music that Lestat has been playing. And Marius is basically warning him, like, you don't know what you're messing with. Like, now that she's awake, like she's gonna come for you, and she's like got all these powers, and it's not gonna be good, and all of humankind is gonna be, annihilated, basically.
Yeah, but he's like, "Whatever, I'm a god. My fans worship me. It doesn't matter." Like, this
what he's
is
not
fine.
Understanding is that Akasha will now kill all of his fans, and there will be no fans left.
Yeah, and everyone will be dead. Kingdom of corpses, as he says later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we flash to Akasha, and we see that she has taken the king's blood. His statue is like ripped apart on the neck. Yeah. And she is now going back to the Admiral's arms, and she is like following his scent basically. And she goes in there and she says like, the scent, he was here too long ago. And then she sees him on TV and is intrigued, and this other guy is like, you like him? And she's like, yes. And he's like, well, all he's going to remind you of soon is a pile of bones, because we're going to kill him. And she's like, oh, really?
And
then she dances real good. Yeah, she dances, she lures him over, and then just eats his fucking heart out.
Literally, and then starts setting everybody in the room ablaze, and then the whole club on fire.
Yep, she takes all those vampires down by herself. The moment, like, they can't even touch her. It was pretty badass.
No, it's pretty.
I was like, damn,
it's pretty cool. She's very powerful. She's OP.
Yeah, I was like, this is pretty scary.
And then she ends up, after like terrorizing, leaving out of the club and looking like a baddie and looking sexy at the same time.
Yeah.
We have Jesse showing up in LA because, and this is where we have that moment, I think, right, where she goes by the dude from Korn and he's trying to sell tickets, and then she goes because the manager is always just getting groupies for Lestat, and so she poses as a groupie, gets to go to his house. And it's so funny because it's so sad for the other groupie because she's there and like Lestat like totally is just like, take that other one and go. Like I only want this
he
one.
has no interest in her. She's like, I flew from Tanzania or something like that. And she's like, I'm Episcopalian. And he's like, take the Episcopalian and leave. But and then because all
wants to get bit.
She does. And they have a cute little interaction because whenever he saved her life, all he said was boo. And so before their whole other conversation started. And so this time she says boo and he says boo back. And then BooBaes. I know, if only. But then he's like, she's basically like, I'm ready. And he's like, do you trust me? And he says, then close your eyes. And they lift off and they're flying over LA. And this is a pretty cheesy montage, but I love it. The like wind flying through their hair, and
it's very Twilight.
Just like is all sensual and like, it was very hold on tight, spider monkey.
Yeah. But he takes her to the park because he's trying to show her, like, I guess, the process of what happens when someone gets bit by a vampire.
And they go to Griffith Observatory, which was pretty cool.
That's in Chicago, right?
No, LA.
LA? Oh. But there's a Griffith one in Chicago.
Oh, there is?
I have a hat from it.
Oh, cool. I think they went to the one in LA. Because it looks like the one in LA.
Oh, I mean, she did fly to LA, so it's got to make sense. And so then, we see a vampire who's about to devour this lady at the park, but Lestat scares him off, and then ends up sucking her. And then he's like, so you want me to do that to you? And she's like, I don't know. But basically, he doesn't bite her because he takes her back up to whatever.
Yeah, because she cut her boobie open earlier. She was like, I'm not as precious as you think, and cuts her boob open. And I was like, damn. And he was like,
well, and he ends up telling her that like he doesn't want to turn her because what makes her beautiful to him is that she is human.
Yeah. And then we get some little diegesis saying Death Valley, California. And we've got some
time.
Disturbed playing here. We've got get up, come on, get down with the sickness.
I don't know that song.
Really?
I don't know any of these songs, Kayla. I never went through this phase.
The hard rock phase.
It all scared me.
That's fair, but you went through an emo phase, so
emo, yeah, but it's like
pop punk's a lot more.
Fall Out Boy, yeah, compared to like Korn is not, and Disturbed is not, yeah. not there. I see what you see though, but they were a lot more like digestible, I guess, for me.
Not as blatantly.
Well, I just also was I was really sheltered, and grew up in a very churchy home. So like all that to me was like I was really like, that's the devil. Like that's like
Exactly. That was what I was trying to say with the blatantly like almost sacrilegious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So all that's like 9 Inch Nails and like all of those stuff and like Slipknot and Coheed and Cambria. Like I knew who they were. It just like it just like wasn't. It was just presented to me as like that's wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was still in my like, well, I'm already going to hell for being gay, so I'm trying to do everything I can to not go to hell. So yeah.
Yeah. So you're like, better turn down the devil's music.
Well, I just didn't have really any control back then because like we didn't even like that was before even like I didn't have control over stuff I listened to until I got to like freshman year of high school. So 2009 is when I got control of what I could watch and listen to, and like because they gifted me this was the problem, they gifted me a laptop for Christmas, and so once I got that, I was like the World Wide Web opened up to me.
I didn't get a laptop till college.
Yeah.
But we did have a desktop computer, and then I would torrent a whole bunch of music from Firefox or not Firefox. What was that? LimeWire.
LimeWire. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one. But we have, how much is your computer at?
It's looks like it hasn't moved at all. So maybe it's at 23%. So maybe the battery is like still slightly charging it.
Dies right now.
It's connected to a phone charger right now.
It's okay. So let's get back to concert time, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we're basically there in Death Valley, California. We've got Disturbed playing. We see Jessie is in the crowd making her way in. David sees her and he's like, Jessie! And she's like, oh, let me get away from him. And then he sees Marius just in time. And Marius is like, oh, David, I must show you my new painting sometime. And I ship David and Marius, by the way.
They're lovers.
Yeah, I could totally see it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like also, I felt like Marius, like Lestat was like, because at one point he called him my little pilgrim or something like that. It wasn't pilgrim, it was another word, but it was something like that. And it made me, I was like, oh, I feel like he's like it's like this is his little son or something to him. Like
it gave more like son. Rat. It gave more like a pet. Like he sees him as a pet, not like a son. But yes, he ends up, and they aren't the only ones here, because also all the vampires are at this concert, because you see them kind of like sprinkled in between the humans, and they are here and they're all hooded up.
Yeah, and they're in hoods, totally not inconspicuous. With the hooded cloaks and then the not moving at all and stuff. I was like, you guys don't look like you're clearly standing out right now.
Yeah. And they end up, it's showtime, and Lestat starts playing with the band, and it's a really good show. It
looks like an awesome concert. I was like, I would go.
But then we start to have the vamps attacking and just like jumping on stage, and like it just goes from 0 to 100 pretty quick, because Lestat just like impales one, and then everybody's like, oh shit.
Yeah. And we saw that the ancients were there. Oh, yeah. And they showed up, and Maharet, or whatever her name was, the aunt, says, find Jessie. So we know that, like, okay, this isn't just a dream. She's for real. And Jessie is connected to these vampires somehow. Yeah. But yes, I loved whenever they were all flying at him, and then Marius comes to his rescue up on the stage and like starts helping him. And then whenever he impales that guy, and then everyone just kind of starts clapping, and I love
they're cheering because they think it's a part of the show.
Yeah, they think it's part of it. And Marius's little like, oh, good job. Was very funny to me. But yes, Marius came in clutch. And the fight scene is so silly, but this is where I remember it being like top of the line at the time. Mm-hmm. Like now it looks very like, now you pose here. Okay. And now we're going to shoot you at this angle. You pose and then
make literally loud noises. Yeah. But that's literally played. But then we cut to all of the vampires that are on stage start burning up because Akasha is here.
Yep.
And she shows up.
They start, their little debris just flies off like little space junk. And then Akasha rises from center stage and draws Lestat to her. And then she just like flies off with him. She's like, show's over. This one's mine. Let's go.
And they go to the beach. And
let's go to the beach.
Let's go get away. And Aaliyah is devouring her role and is being very like sensual and like, I can give you the world. I love you. I want to be with you. You and I.
You are now my
rule.
consort.
Yeah, we will rule everything.
And I love when she was like, you thought it was all you. And then she kind of chuckles and she's like the ego of a king as well. I was like, this bitch thought he did all this. And she's like, no, sit down, sir. It was me.
Like, I did this for you, for us.
Yeah.
And then we cut to them getting together and having some beautiful, beautiful, passionate lovemaking.
Yes.
Vampire lovemaking. Scene which is the vision that we saw earlier as well.
Yes. Very sensual, and we've got Deftones playing now. But she's sucking his like blood in a pool of roses, and this part kind of reminded me of Ganja and Hess.
I can see that.
Like, I wonder if they
inspired.
Gained some inspiration from Ganja and Hess. Really good movie. I'm glad we watched that. If you haven't watched Ganja and Hess, go listen to our episode, watch it, and go listen to our episode from like 2 years ago now or something. Yeah. But you can find it in our catalog somewhere. It's a really good film. And we're getting those flashes of bloodlust and stuff again. And then we basically, they kind of cut off and we wake up with Jessie, right? In her bedroom from the dream.
She's at the sacred place and she's like, I never thought I'd ever be back here again.
For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm home.
And then her aunt Morg Maharet shows up and she's like, hey, sweetie, it's been a while. It's nice to see you. Sorry, I dropped you back off with your human people, but you couldn't be here. But now that you're here, guess what? We've got to kill the queen of the vampires.
Exactly. And
pretty much.
We basically find out that Maharet had a child before she turned, and she keeps watch over all of her children over the centuries that have happened. Basically, that her bloodline that has descended from her. Yeah. And she says that this is what keeps me connected to the world of the living. And she says the family is who you are. Then we're back with Lestat, and he can walk in the light like Nezuko from Demon Slayer.
And this is a gift because he drank the blood of Akasha. And then he wakes up, goes outside, and sees that there are so many dead people everywhere. In the pool.
Bodies are littered beach. Everywhere.
Yeah, and they have all been sucked dry. Well, not dry because you can't do that, but they've been depleted for the most part by Akasha. And he's like, oh, we're going to have a kingdom of corpses. And she's like, well, what else would we have? Like, they're beneath us. They are our food, you know?
They believed in nothing, and now they are nothing. We will give the world something to believe in again.
Yeah, I like the way she taught.
I did too. I think someone else voiced her. Because I watched this on Prime because I just was in a rush and didn't know where else to watch it. And every time, like when you pause on Prime, it'll show you the actors in the scene. Yeah, there was somebody else listed for Akasha as well as Aaliyah there.
No, that's interesting.
So maybe I think Aaliyah, maybe because her voice kind of sounded like multiple voices, it had like that like
they probably dubbed something
whisper
in. Yeah.
behind it.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
So I think
Yeah.
maybe they merged her voice and that other person's voice to make her voice sound as like ghostly as it did.
And she is, you know, basically tells them, okay, we gotta go. We got a score to settle. And they end up going to the place that Mahara and all the other ancients are, because Mahara and Marius are telling, you know, Jesse, that they must defeat Akasha in order to save the humans. Otherwise, she's gonna like, you know, destroy the world, take over.
Yes.
And
then
Akasha
this is where
does show
again
up.
they mention whoever takes the last of her blood will not survive it. And then Akasha bursts in and she's like, my children, it warms my blood to see you all gathered here plotting against me.
And basically just offers them like, you're either against me or you're either with me or against me.
Join me or die.
And they're like, no, never.
I will not.
And so then that's whenever Lestat, she asks Lestat to kill Jesse.
Yeah, she's like, do you love me? And then that reminded me of old Greg. Do you love me?
Do you love me? And then she ends up, he ends up listening to her and going to Jesse, but he's like still kind of conscious of his own self as well at this point. Like he's not necessarily fully under her control. And so I guess what he does is he just like, you know, doesn't suck her off until he sucks her off, I guess just enough to like make her pass out, but not like kill her. And then that's when he goes back to Miss Akasha and he's like, give me my crown. And she's like, okay, king. And
spoken like a true king.
Sucking her blood, but long enough for the other vamps, the ancient ones, to start attacking her.
Yeah, he basically gives them an opening because he starts sucking her blood and she's like, see how he obeys, you will, or you all will die. And he just keeps sucking and she's like, Lestat, that's enough. And he just kind of looks up at Marius and he's like basically giving them their cue to let them all go ham on her. And so they all flock to her, they're sucking her blood. And she's throwing them off one by one and burning them up. But then she throws little blonde boy off and he starts burning, but then it starts like going away. So he they're
doing some damage to her.
Yeah. Her powers are weakening. And she then says, you kill me, you kill yourselves. And then they're just like, yeah, we fucking know, but we're going to kill you anyways.
Yeah. And Maharet takes the final stand and goes up to her and starts sucking her off until she takes the last drop. And then we just see it, this like really, Akasha starts to like turn black and like into stone, but then not stone. And then like into like a skeleton that's kind of like not on fire, but it's like ashing away. You know?
Yeah, she like kind of crumbles into ash. Yeah.
Very Voldemort.
It was really cool. I loved the way that they had her body pose like back on that with her hands up and like moving all around and her head like swiveling and stuff. It was really a cool scene to me. Although I will say I think she went down a little easier
easy, right?
Than she, I mean, because she like single-handedly like killed all those vampires in the Admiral's arms. But yeah, she went down a little easy. I guess Lestat really took a lot of her blood in that moment and made her weak and opened her.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess so too. It's just like for the amount of like how much buildup that she had, and she's like the queen of all, you know, and then it was just like, all right, we're just gonna like just 5 of us, we're gonna suck you off and bloop, you're dead. But I get it. Yeah. And then, so she's defeated, thankfully. And because Maharet was the last one to drink the last drop of her blood, she turns to stone. But she's not dead, she's sleeping.
Yes, that's what Marius says. And then Lestat goes to check on Jesse. And he ends up, in order to save her, he has to transform her. Again, very Twilight.
Yeah.
Twilight took after this.
Very much so.
This is, yeah.
Stephanie Meyer just copied Anne Rice, literally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then, so he transforms Jesse, and then we're kind of back with David in his office, and he's looking at different headlines and stuff saying like blaming drugs in the water for what people saw at the concert. And but he's in his office when he hears a sort of ghostly breathing again. And he's like, what the fuck is that?
And then who do we have? We have Jessie pop up. And she's
and Lestat is there in the chair.
Yeah. Or was it Lestat first and then Jessie, or was it?
Yeah.
Jessie?
It was Lestat first and then Jessie.
There we go. Yeah, because then he's like, oh my God, Jessie. And then she's like, hi, David. And then he's like, can you tell me like what it's like? And she's like, do you want to find out?
And he's like, no, I'm too old to live forever. And so then she's like, and he's like, so this is goodbye? And they're like, yes. And then they walk out hand in hand, but Marius has other plans for David. And again, I ship them.
Like
I hope that he turned David, and made him his little lover for eternity. I would love that. Boy. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be cute. Like, what if David this whole time was secretly in love with him? He was pining for him. He wasn't just studying.
That's why he was so obsessed with him. Yeah. Exactly. That's what I like to think. And then they leave hand in hand. They're walking across a bridge, and we see like the cityscape and like people behind them. I walked across this bridge when I was in there.
Cute.
Yep, in London. And then we end with the Kidney Thieves playing. That's the name of the band. And it's a good song too. It's just, we're kind of ending with that cityscape, and then we flash to the in memoriam of Aaliyah.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie. Roll credits.
Dead. Yeah.
She is dead.
It's unfortunate. Do you have any fun facts?
Do you want me to read them now? Yeah. Okay.
Go.
I am trying to get to them still. So okay.
I guess, yeah.
Oh, here it is. So Aaliyah died in a plane crash shortly after principal photography was completed, but had not yet actually performed any ADR redubbing for her character. Michael Reimer called in Aaliyah's brother, Rashad Houghton, to help with overdubbing her voice following her death due to their similar voices. Special vocal technology was also used to make his voice sound more feminine. So that was the other person who was credited, was her brother, I guess.
That's good. I'm glad people kept that in the family.
Yeah. Aaliyah was the first actor to be cast for the film. She was enthusiastic about taking the role due to her fascination with Egyptian mythology and also being a huge fan of vampire horror fiction. Let's see. For the scenes of Lestat's concert in Death Valley, over 3,000 goths were recruited from Melbourne nightclubs and on the internet, then driven on a fleet of buses to a quarry in Werribee to act as extras.
That's cute. That would have been your dream.
I know. I would, if I was old enough at the time and not like fucking 7. I would have loved to have been one of those. Well, even then,
this was, I mean, what you had to been, because if you got it for your 7th birthday.
Well, yeah, or something. So they probably filmed it in like 2000, 2001. Yeah. Because it came out in 2002.
Yeah.
Let's see. I already said this. But the singing voice of Lestat was supplied by Jonathan Davis of Korn. However, due to contractual difficulties, Davis could not sing on the soundtrack album release. The 5 songs written by he and Richard Gibbs for the movie were then performed on the album by Marilyn Manson, Chester Bennington of Linkin Park, David Dryman of Disturbed, and Wayne Static of Static X, and Jay Gordon of Orgy. Davis was still allowed to play several instruments on the album, though. And then lastly, I tried to combine Stuart Townsend. I said Tuart. Stuart Townsend shares his name with a character from another Anne Rice novel, The Witching Hour. Upon meeting Townsend, Rice handed him a copy of the book and instructed him to turn to a certain page number, whereupon was written The Life of Stuart Townsend. Townsend was flattered that she had written him into her new book until she told him that she had written it 11 years prior. So that was just a freak kind of coincidence.
Mm-hmm. That's fun. He was born to play the role.
Yep. And those are all my fun facts that I have for you.
Time to get into some Boo ratings.
Boo time.
Overall, I think I would give it a 3.5. In my
3.5?
A 3.5, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, please do.
I mean, it wasn't horrible, right? A 3.5 for us is kind of like a little bit more than above average. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cute, and I thought it was cool. I enjoyed Aaliyah's performance in it. I thought she ate it up. I think for me, the biggest qualm was, and I guess it's for just not knowing, I guess, what I was already getting into, because I should have known that this was an Anne Rice-based film, like novel thing. I didn't know that. I just thought it was its own thing. And I know that that's more of like, but obviously Interview with the Vampire, it's like more romanticism vampire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
this is a completely different side of Lestat.
But it still is like heavy on like kind of like the sensualness and like kind of like the I don't know. But then like all vampire movies kind of tie in like sensuality and stuff like that and kind of sexuality. I feel like vampires for some reason
they're very heavily
horny
sexualized.
Motherfuckers. Yeah. I don't know why in our culture we sexualize vampires like that. But
because it's unknown, they're mysterious.
Right. I just, you know what it is I just really wish that the queen part, like the whole Leah part, like would have played like a bigger kind of part into it. I kind of felt almost like just giving like the last 30 minutes of it, which I get we needed all that build up, but I just kind of wish she had more of like an effect to where at the end as well she wasn't also just defeated so easily, because I feel like, man, she's the queen of all damned, but like we're just like, you know, I feel like they tried to wrap it up really fast, that's all. But overall, like, I mean, it was a good film. I like how we got a lot of like the backstory on how Lestat, you know, came to be, and then you know, I don't keep on calling Maurice Marion, not Marion. Marius, yes. I don't know. I feel bad. Don't be mad at me, but it's just a 3.5. Like I didn't like necessarily love it, but I didn't hate it, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
But overall, like it did also too, like it's so funny that a lot of vampire films are like, I guess it's because the stereotypes, I don't know, they all kind of like have like they hit like 5 different things most of the time in a way, like sexy vampires, club of vampires, a queen of a vampire, like queen of all vampires, like, you know what I mean, like it hit like all of those, like what you would expect from like a vampire type of movie essentially, though.
Yeah
Almost all in one, and then had like rock music in it, almost a musical. So it
was almost a musical.
But everybody's acting was good. I enjoyed Jessie's character. I thought she was cool. She intrigued me as a character.
I do think that her acting at some point was a little lackluster.
We always like are always opposite on that. I feel like we always end up like that. When I think someone's great and you're like, I thought they were cheesy. But
there were just some moments from her where I was like, but I enjoyed her character, and I think that she was still really cool. Like, would I do the same thing in her position? Yeah, probably. If I got to experience a real vampire, I'd be like, fucking let's do it.
I honestly don't like, because I guess because you don't know until you're on the other side, right? But all the vampires are like, you don't want to live forever. I'm like, bitch, like you're saying that
maybe I do.
You get to live forever. Like you're in privilege. You're speaking out of privilege right now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, it would suck to watch like all of your loved ones die.
Bite them. Bite me.
Bite them all. Yeah. Change you all. I'll be
Literally.
like, I'm gonna make my own little family.
Coven. Literally.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do have a listener review of this film, and it is not good either. I mean, what the listener wrote was good, but they were not a fan. Mm-hmm. So this is from Emma, our listener who supports us all Emma. The time.
Go, Emma. Go. Okay.
We love Emma. But she wrote Queen of the Damned. Oof. This is one of those movies I almost regret rewatching. I love this movie when it came out, but it has been such a long time since I've seen it, and it has not aged particularly well for me. Katie from Wet Hot American Summer, and she put that's a 5-boo movie for sure, is pretty lackluster, I feel. And I'm assuming I've not actually seen Wet Hot American Summer.
I've never seen it. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, Emma. We'll go watch it right now.
We'll go watch it. But I'm assuming that's probably Jesse's character.
I'll look it up right now.
But she said pretty lackluster as well. And she says, as an early aughts emo kid, the music and the vibe is totally on point, which I agree. But she says the story feels disjointed. And for a movie called Queen of the Damned, I feel like we don't get much of the queen, which is exactly what you said. Yes, which is a shame because she is badass, and totally agree. Aaliyah is fantastic. And even though maybe it's kind of cheesy, I love how she moves and her presence on screen. I think we totally agree with you there.
We do.
And she says, I think I enjoy the movie more for nostalgia than anything. And even with that, I'm going to say it's a 2.5 boos. Ooh. She said it's not trash by any means, but I wouldn't call it a great film either. It will certainly stay in my nostalgia rewatch rotation. I know. I was like, oh. But there is so much that I do agree with. Like, I totally know and understand what you're saying with, like, I wish Aaliyah had more screen time too. And again, that could have been because of, like,
a man made this movie. That's why.
Yeah.
A man literally just said, we want Aaliyah to look sexy for about 30 minutes. Thank you. Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, they could have given her character more complexity.
The book, I believe the book does follow Lestat pretty closely, if I remember correctly. And so I'm assuming that they were like, it's going to follow Lestat as it's a somewhat loosely based sequel of Interview with the Vampire. So it makes sense. But with it being called Queen of the Damned, yes, you would think that there would be more Aaliyah in it. However, all that being said, I'm going to stick with my 5.
Stick with it.
Because I just personally love this movie. I watched it a billion times as a kid. Like, I think my mom even had to be like, you can only watch this once a week.
You're watching
like, I think she had to take it away from me at some point because I was like, and honestly, I should not have been watching this movie at 7. It dealt with a lot of like sexual tension and stuff that I, of adult course, themes. Didn't understand at the time. But yeah, adult themes. And yeah, I wouldn't let my 7-year-old watch it. But it was the early 2000s. It was a different time. But I just personally, I thought all the acting was great. I do agree with Emma that was Katie Jesse's character. Did you look it up?
Yeah, she was in Wet Hot American. Yeah, sure. Marguerite Moreau. Okay.
Yeah. There were some moments from her where I felt like she was a little flat, but I still enjoyed her character overall. And I thought Lestat was phenomenal. I thought he played a perfect Lestat. Stuart Townsend did. Aaliyah fucking knocked it out of the park. She was like, I've always really enjoyed Aaliyah. Like, I loved her music and I loved everything I've seen her in. And this film especially, though. And then I've always felt like we were slightly connected with our same birthday. So I just always thought that was really cool because Aaliyah did a lot of the music for Anastasia too.
Well, that's cute. I didn't know that.
I believe so. And that was one of my favorite movies growing up as well. And so I've always really enjoyed Aaliyah. And she absolutely killed it in this film. I do wish she had more screen time. That is for sure. But I think overall nostalgia and just this movie, even though it might not have aged well with its like cheesy, campy scenes, I still think it's worth a 5.
Yeah.
I'll die on this hill.
Die on it.
I will.
Crucify yourself. No, it's fine. I mean, it's good. It's got a 5. We got a 2.5 and a 3.5. So I think that leaves it at like a solid. Yeah, that part.
3.5.
3.5 plus 2.5. I'm going to do it. Plus 5.0 divided by, there's 3 people here. It's a 7.6.
We're so good at math. I'm going to say it goes to a 3.75.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
No.
Your 5 really
but the 5 really brings it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a 3.75 is fair.
That sounds like math.
Because the 2.5 and the 5, I think, yeah. A 3.75.
Yeah, maybe a 3.56.
Okay, that's fair. 3.68.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Sound right.
3.68. 3.68. I'd rather see that. Okay.
Or a 3.69.
We might as well round it up since. Okay, 3.7.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's you round up when it's over 5, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You do.
So 3.7. So it's.
I was just making a 69 joke.
That went right over my head.
You're on pain meds. Well, actually, you're not. But
no, I'm not. But I am in
that's
pain.
what's causing you not to think. Yeah.
Ooh, yes. But so that is our Queen of the Damned review, you guys. BooBaes episode
2002.
2002. We will continue talking about vampires because next we'll be doing Blade.
Yes, another one of my childhood favorites.
And then we'll be covering not the one that starts with an N, but the other one. Dracula. I don't know how I could forget Dracula. We're covering Dracula. And then I think we'll end it out with Nosferatu. Yeah. It's the kind of
I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
So if you have, that was about to majorly jump the gun, but if you do have thoughts about that, you can let us know your thoughts and we can read your thoughts on air. If you have thoughts about Blade, Dracula, or Nosferatu, all the original ones, you can let us know via Instagram, which we'll just do it now, I guess. But that is on our one social media platform, Instagram, and that is at
BooBaes Podcast, and that's at BOOBAES because we're your BooBaes, not your BooBabes.
That's right. And as always, we're being hosted by the lovely Rogue Media Network Studios. They take great care of us, and they allow us to get in on little to no time notice. And they always help us out. So we're very thankful to them. But if you want to listen to us or any of the other amazing podcasts that they host, you can do so all in one central place, and that is at
roguemedianetwork.com.
That's right. And then if you want to listen to us, you can do so on wherever you get your podcast, but the biggest 2 platforms would be
Apple
and also Spotify. But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that is the only way we can get ahead in this world. And tell your friends about us. It's basically the official start of spooky season now that 4th of July is passed. So I'm in full on spooky mode. I drank out of my Halloween cat mug that you got me last year this morning. So I drink out of, and then I also drink out of my tarot cup mug, tarot card mug all the time. So I just basically live in spooky all the year round, but
you live with dolls.
Made sure I do live with dolls and probably plenty of ghosts attached to them. There were some dolls in this
movie.
There were. Yeah, I know. I was like, it's my house.
Yeah. But yeah. So thank you for listening, you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for waiting for
sending us
our
your
episodes to
reviews.
drop. And thank you guys for checking in on us and actually asking like where we've been at. It's very nice of you
Yeah.
guys. Some of you
We
did
really
that.
appreciate that y'all were wondering where we were. Sorry that we had to disappear for so long, but opening a store is no joke, and then neither is getting your wisdom teeth out. So
yeah. So
it's a bunch of hard work we've been doing. Josh is having to heal his body. I've had to heal my soul after working nonstop, trying to get that store open. And
you're still working hard maintaining.
Yes, every day I am there except for Mondays, which is why we're recording today.
Yeah. But thank you guys. And is there anything else we need to add in, Caitlin?
I don't think so. So until next time.
Bye,
Baes. Bye, booze. Boobies.
Bye, baes.
In a world where dreams meet reality, there exists a place where your business can flourish. That place is Shopify. Imagine having the power to craft your online store with tools that make it as easy as a gentle breeze. Whether you're an artisan of handmade wonders, a creator of digital treasures, or a curator of the latest trends, Shopify stands by your side. With its customizable templates, seamless integrations, and support that's always there, your dream store is just a heartbeat away. Join millions of visionaries around the globe and let Shopify guide you on your journey. Visit roguemedianetwork.com/Shopify. That's roguemedianetwork.com/SHOPIFY. And embark on your free trial. Shopify, where your commerce dreams come to life.